In this week's episode, I'm talking to Chris. Hello, Chris.
Hello.
About NPCs, but NPCs this time which don't have just a little cameo, but they have much more of a major part. Usually by accident, right, Chris? Usually that's not a plan.
Yeah, usually. I think it's ingraining an NPC that's going to jump into part of the narrative is rarely ever planned. I think it's your players will attach themselves to usually your least expected NPC.
That is true. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, introducing an NPC.
Yeah.
When you get a wacky one, I think that's the ones they usually get quite attached to, isn't it?
Yeah, it's usually your Boblin the Goblins and your small. I mean, I'm a big fan of High Rollers. They had Smeek, the Goblin NPC, who became a fan favorite, drove a couple of the players mad. But you get those little wacky creatures, and they do tend to be quite partial to the story. But then also your ones that connect to a backstory. They're also the ones that either have a massive impact or tend to tag along for a while.
I tell you what, it reminds me of when you've got an NPC who's a quest giver and they're like, "We want this doing. Go out there and attack so and so," and the players are like, "Well, why don't? If you want to do it, why haven't you done it?
Why are you
where
coming
they
with
are.
us?
Yeah, why don't you come help us?" I have all, especially the first job campaign I ever ran. Every single bloody guard they came across. Hey, do you want to come on a mission?
Yeah.
No,
I mean, we discussed in the last video we did together that I run a paid game as well. I had a session with them recently, and they decided they were going into a city filled with the undead, and they went to a temple of Lathander, and there's a guard at the back of the room, and they were like, "Well, you must come with us. You fight against the undead, and you'll be one with us." I was like, "Fine, yeah, I'll come along. I'll be a part of your fighting party." They didn't realize he was a level 1 cleric.
Right.
They're level 8.
Oh.
He got killed in one round. But they were like, "Yeah, NPC, come with us. And I was like, "Fine, yeah, okay. You want to convince the random little NPC to come with you, but they're going to be of no regular, member of the clergy and your level 8 heroes of the sort of local area." So yeah, the people get attached to things that they think will bring them an advantage, as well as things that are going to drive the story.
Weirdly, I also have the opposite effect. Every campaign I run, there are those pushed forwards NPCs. These can help the players if they're underpowered. These have the knowledge. My players don't talk to them. My players don't use them when I say, "Right, you control them in a fight." And then after like 3 fights, someone will go, "Who's meant to be controlling that veteran we have?" "Oh, yeah, I am." And it's like, they're stood there, they've got a mini.
So I tend to, I know DMs generally have, you're spinning 27 plates at once. If it's an NPC, I will tend to be in the controlling seat. I realise that sounds a bit odd, but players have got enough to deal with. And I realise also DMs have plenty to deal with, but players, they've got to think about their action economy, they've got to think about their urgency, and they've got 6 seconds in which to do it. And they've got to be on point. So I know what the NPC is doing. The NPC is my little gift into the session, and it also helps bridge that little gap of the DM is not trying to kill us. That's sort of like the DM is here to help and to play the monsters and to facilitate the story. I tend to run them. I don't tend to sort of pass off the NPCs to other people. I'll give them the option of shout out a command, so they're aware of what the NPC can do. But I tend to run them, and they tend to like I say, we'll get on to Ron in a bit, but his was very much, he's going to attack. You know what he's going to do. You learn what the NPCs expect. You learn how they fit into the party, and I think it's a really cool way of maybe making up the shortcomings of the party. If you can get them to take them on, to be like, right, cool, this party doesn't have a designated healer. I'm going to have someone who can maybe provide them with health potions that are going to boost them, that they can maybe come back to. Or maybe they're going on a mission that's got a deadly, CR rating. I'm going to provide them with a cleric, someone that can heal, someone that can maybe, if someone dies during the fight, can cast Revivify, maybe with a price, maybe with a mission on the side. But I think, crafting NPCs that fit the tone and the point of the story that you're in is quite a beneficial experience for the players as well as the DM.
So motivations then. I do
Definitely.
feel that an NPC works better when they have their own quest for them.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And that's why I try and tie in my NPCs to run alongside, not linear, but parallel alongside the story. Yes, they're moving in the same direction. They may have a slightly ulterior motive, but they're moving in the same direction. And that brings up a little bit of, can we trust them? It brings up a little point for the players to interact with each other, but it also is like, right, okay, better the devil you know. We know we're moving towards the same goal. We can sort of trust. And having that sort of motive and that story allied is quite beneficial. Like I said about the cleric of Lathander, yeah, he really wants to kill the undead. Undead are an affront to the Dawn Lord. Right, cool. Yeah, he wants it. He's in the same boat as you. He's a lot weaker than you.
Yeah,
but,
and that you can't have like, what challenge are you? Because I have had players like that. What?
Yeah.
What?
I mean, it's something they did really well in the D&D movie, the one, The Honor Amongst Thieves, that came out. They had the paladin who was like, yeah, I'm going to come in, blazing sword, and kill everything, but not sticking around for long. You have to go on your own journey. Yes, our motives are are allied at the moment, but you have to run a very fine line with DM NPCs between being useful and being the blue-haired main character of the story that's going to, just do everything that needs doing. Particularly, DMs tend to have a point of, this is a story I have crafted and I know where I want it to go. But the players ultimately decide the direction in which it takes. It's a collaborative story experience, as you and I both know. Yeah. But I know there are plenty of DMs out there like, well, I have taken the time to write the story, and these are my characters, and this is where the story is going to go, and my NPCs will get us there, by God damn it.
Yeah, they'll find a way. We can mess about, and the DM will lead us. Yeah, I don't think my players yet realise that the NPCs are me in the game steering them. I'm like, I put them in there so that they will get you to the goal. But if you never talk to them and they just follow you, they're almost going follow, to the NPCs. Come on, keep up. Yeah. It's like, well, no, I've got a reason to be here. But as you say, having them as a healer seems very useful for us to keep the game going. I don't want you dying in this next thing. I want you to get through it. Yeah, but
it does. Like I say, it's a facility. It's a way of continuing the story without trying to impact too much. So for me, NPCs should never make big decisions. NPCs are followers. They're companions. They may have an opinion.
Yeah.
But that opinion should seldom win out. That opinion could be there to guide the judgments of the players. It could be to provide an opinion or an insight that the players haven't yet thought of. But it shouldn't be, you should be doing this. Why aren't you doing this?
I was guilty of that on Saturday.
You haven't gone back into the temple and picked up the stones of Baron's Ear, Skyrim reference. But why have you ignored such a thing? It's a priceless relic that's worth thousands of gold. It's very much a case of, well, actually, I've heard of this, but I mean, I'm not an expert. Here's my opinion, here's my knowledge, but do with it what you will.
Yeah. On Saturday, I have an NPC who is on the quest. I am on the quest with you guys. Let's go do it. And my teenage players all are talking about D&D and who could kill things more and who's going to get to the treasure. And every one room, we're going in 13. Okay, let's go in 13. 13, you see, there's a table, there's chairs, bones on the walls. And then you hear murmuring from down, you have to find in the citizens, and they're down the hall in this big auditorium. You can hear the voices. Yeah. Well, I searched this, I searched that. And eventually, after like 5 minutes, I'm like, are we going to room 14 anytime in this 3-hour session? Do you know what I mean? And they start talking about things at school, and I'm like, can we get, So my NPC's like, look, guys, I'm going to go next door, okay? And I'm going to get any treasure that they might have. Whoa, treasure! We run right past her. Yeah. And it's like, that's where I'm at. I was getting frustrated on Saturday, but that's another story. They're having fun, and it's hard to stop that, teenagers.
Definitely. I mean, I used to be a school teacher. I know all about teachers, about working with teenagers. Sometimes their minds just go off at a tangent.
But they were having fun.
I mean, that's the main thing. And that's the thing where you draw the line as a story writer and transition to maybe the storyteller. That I'm fine with chat. Some of my players, they spent 3 hours deciding what they were going to do shopping, and they decided they were going to have a chat with this shopkeeper. And I was like, right, this is cool. This is a chance for some exposition, some time for. And there's moments with that, but when it's sort of idle chit chat at the table, I think that's the DM hat on. That's not the NPC hat on. That's the DM chat on of like, come on, guys, we've got 4 hours.
Once a week, let's focus. Yeah.
I'm happy to chat before. I'm happy to chat after. I mean, I always start. I have a session with some very good friends, and we normally start at 7:30, which means we start at 8. We get on at 7:30.
How are you doing? What have you been up to?
We chat for half an hour. And then as soon as everyone's there and we've chatted for 10, 15 minutes, 8 o'clock we start. We run till 11 o'clock. 10 past at the latest we cut off.
Yeah.
Because we're grown adults. We have work.
Yes.
We have to get up and do things. So it's like, right, pleasantries beforehand, get the chat out of the way. Now it's game time. Now you are no longer Chris. You are no longer, whoever you are your character.
Yeah.
And this is it. This is the next time. But every game is different. Every game is different. There's different interactions. Like my friendship group game is very much role play heavy. It is crafted beautiful story moments. Moments that have made me tear up. My paid game, obviously, they have their own way of doing things. If they roll in that one, they shoot each other with a BB gun. that is their prerogative. That's what they do. I've seen the pictures of the welts that come up afterwards. It's hilarious. It's brilliant. They're a great bunch of lads. But every game is different. And my NPCs in my roleplay heavy game will be very different to my NPCs in my standard game. In my paid game.
Like what? More involved?
So more curated to backstories. So my paid game, they're very much they are the heroes. They want the information as quickly as possible. They want to know where the monster is. They want to kill it. They want to move on. They want to get the epic loot. They want to be the heroes of the realm, and they want to move forward doing it. Whereas my other game, it's very much a case of they have their characters, so they want to explore their flaws and their backstories. So tying in characters who are related to various different aspects. It's a very different role play heavy dynamic as opposed to a combat heavy dynamic. And it's about knowing your players and knowing how they work and the NPCs that are going to fit through that game. It's pointless having a massive exposition heavy, I've crafted this voice, I am tied to your backstory, I've been here for thousands of years watching you, and it's just like, yeah, cool, where's the monster, we want to go kill it.
Yeah, read the room kind of thing.
Yeah, very much.
But as for filling in travel time, you're like, takes you 2 days to get there. I'm like, that's an ideal opportunity for me to have my NPCs basically pull role playing out of my young or old players. Be like, okay, why are you on this quest? And where have you come from? And those quieter players, I get a chance then through my NPC to have at least have an attempt to pull something out of them. But when my NPCs have a long text box in a book, and they're like, well, you were going along on a cart, and all of a sudden, she says, it was back in 2012 when I met, and they all go, shut up, we don't know your backstory. And it's like, yeah, but it's got really important facts in it that you need to know setting up the next bit, But they just don't like it. However, NPCs, whether they're listened to or not, I like to think about their loyalty. They could be the very ones who backstab your party in the end. That's quite a good idea.
Some fantastic opportunities for not even just a pure backstab, but an ulterior motive. An ulterior motive that could be purely self-preservation. It could be they've been burnt once before, and they're just not taking the chance this time. Yeah. They've got what they need. They're out of here. What? Oh, there's monsters incoming. Yeah, I'm out, mate. I am long gone before these other enemies arrive. It could be they're secretly working with someone else. It could be they're even just scared. I've got an NPC. I mean, I got this book out specially because I knew we were talking about it. I love this book.
Yes, that's the classic.
The classic, Game Master's Book of NPCs. And I use that quite a lot. It's great to fall back on just for inspiration or even just stat blocks.
Yeah.
But I have, in one of my games, there is a child that my group have adopted with a sentient greatsword. And they're determined to protect this child. He's meant to be a throwaway.
Yeah.
They don't know any ulterior motives, but I've taken something pre-existing and they've twisted it to a story. That's going to be a major pivotal moment in the story. I hope none of my players are watching this. I mean, I hope they are, so you get the views, but I hope they're not because of the story. But you know, your NPC shouldn't always be a dead giveaway, and they shouldn't always be transparent. There's nothing wrong with having a transparent NPC because it makes players feel powerful. There is something to be said for a well-timed insight check with an NPC because it makes players feel like, oh yeah, got him, and I got him early. I got him before he could do damage. We could take him down now. Brilliant. I'm all for that. I'm all for player agency. I'm all for you know, a good roll of the dice.
Yeah, that's
so
fair.
having a hidden motive is really good, and that's why I like that book, because it's got the little bits that I like for the observant, for the perceptive, and it's got little hidden things. I think there should always be something hidden for a key NPC.
Yeah,
there should be something hidden, and that could be an insecurity, it could be an ulterior motive, it could be a plan, it could be an alliance to somewhere else. But you don't have to have it for everything. I mean, I invent a lot of my NPCs on the fly. Improvisation is a brilliant skill in the DM's toolkit. Being able to improvise an NPC that isn't just Boblin the Goblin or Steve the Blacksmith, you know, being able to have some ideas and just have something you can refer to. And if you don't, a book like that's brilliant because you can have a few key bits. I am quite lucky that I'm able to come up with these things on the fly, and the accents just seem to come with it. So I love doing a bit of accent work and coming out with something. And I would develop key NPCs and have them in strategic locations, have them where you want your NPCs to be, but there's no harm in the shameless little teleport map. So if this NPC, which was going to be pivotal to a story, is in a city that your players have no intention of moving to, they've just slid down the map somewhere to the city you're going to.
Yeah. Absolutely.
There's no harm in that because they don't know.
No, they don't care.
They don't know that Rakthar the Ironmonger, who, you know, creates legendary weapons for heroes with long forged in icebound steel, was not meant to be based in Signos and is now based in, you know, Hearthhome. It just, you make it work around you. At the end of the day, they don't know the story you've planned, and your NPCs can be shifted around.
Yeah, I find I like to throw in an NPC on the road. You know, you're going down and you see a guy or you hear music coming out of the woods. But usually, various teams I've done, it's the old, there's a guy cooking a stew up. Do you want some of this? And it's basically he's eating his brother. It's the cannibal. But, you know, they have to work out that, hang on, you know, my brother used to be around, but I've got this business off him, and hopefully they'll work out that they're actually eating Nigel or something, you know. But on the other hand, I also like to think that you might just meet a merchant. So they're like, who is this guy? He's talked about this guy, and I'm like, I'm not going to say that he's just a guy. And so they're like, kill him. He's got nothing on him. Well, what was the point of him? World's full of people. You know what I mean?
I love a good merchant. I've used a couple of merchants that spring to mind. In my first big level 1 to level 20 game that I ran, there was a merchant who was in a festival. One of the characters' hometowns, they were having a sort of a harvest festival, and he was there and he was selling incredible magic items. And they were brilliant, you know. And he noticed a group of adventurers like, I've got something special for you lot, you know, something you guys have never seen before. I have. Look at the back of my wagon, and he produced these sort of like relics, and one of them was this glowing crystalline lattice structure. And I sold it to one of the characters as a fireball grenade. And it was meant to be like the equivalent of a 9th level fireball. And he kept it. And he kept it, and he kept it, and he kept it. And like a true video game player, he hoarded it until the last boss fight.
Yeah.
And they're showing down against an aspect of Lolth, and he takes this rock out. He's like, right, now and he launches it. Nothing happens.
Excellent.
Because it's a rock with a very simple glamour over it to make it glow.
Yeah, because they're little buggers.
And it's been conned. And that was one of the merchants. And then the next game, obviously different character, same player, different character. And they've got a merchant with a wagon, and the wheels come off, and he's on the side of the road, and they come up to a wagon in total disrepair, you know, books everywhere, tomes everywhere. And he's got to offer him is these magical potions, and he's on his way to the local spell tournament, spell joust, or whatever you want to call it. And he's off up to the Elven City for this magic combat competition to sell his wares, and all he can offer the players is these potions. Say, thank you, look, I need to get back on the road, thank you for helping me. my players are initially like, last time you gave us a merchant, you screwed us over royally.
Yeah.
So they've got these potions, and these potions, I'm not going to lie, are really good buffs.
Yeah.
But they're scared to use them now because I burnt them in the last game.
Yeah. What I like to do is if they haggle a lot and they're like, I'm going to get this health potion really cheap, I just like, okay, have it for half price, whatever. And then I make it and I do like 1d4. It's like, it's watered down,
I might nick that.
Because it's like people don't seem to expect, it's obviously a health potion and that's it. All right, I'll have it. And it's like, but it might not be.
Watered down. I've used a potion merchant recently who, in exchange for sort of the bartering, is like, fine, okay, I'll sell you these potions, but you're going to do me a favor. I've got some experimental potions, and you're going to test them out.
That's good.
I'll give you a discount if you test these out for me and report me with your findings. It's something I love messing around because nobody wants to play one in any of my games, and it makes me sad. Wild Magic Sorcerers, I love them, but no one ever wants to play one. So I just took the Wild Magic table and put it into a potion. I have a potion of Wild Magic, or ampules of Wild Magic, so they can throw them at enemies, and it'll have mixed effects. So it's like a little Wild Magic grenade. It's like, okay, it could completely, it could heal your enemy. It could turn them into a potted plant.
That's great.
But they could also take it themselves and be like, oh, right, okay, I'm hasted, or I'm a potted plant. I love the potted plant feature, I'm not going to lie. It's one of my favourite little bits. Ever since one of my players rolled on the Wild Magic table and turned into a potted plant in the middle of a Naga pit, I've been obsessed with that. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah.
But having those little bits of like, okay, you can barter, but I'm a character too, I'm going to ask for something back.
Yeah.
And being able to even set them on a side quest or set them on something that's going to, rather than just an NPC giving exposition, be like, okay, cool, but I'm going to give you that, but you need to do something for me. And on the way to doing something for me, they learn something about their wider goal. And it gives them that, like, okay, we've learned something, we've stumbled across something. Rather than just, we've been told this by an NPC. We found it. This is acquired knowledge. This is not just something that someone has said to me. This is not something the DM has given us. This is something like, we rolled high enough. We found a quest we weren't supposed to find, and we found information.
Yeah. I know when I've had a druid, a shop owner who will like do the potions, you get any potions for so and so gold, and I'll say, tell you what, if you go out into those woods and pick me the ingredients, I will then do it cheaper. And the next thing you know, they're survival checking for as many. How many can we find out of all these flowers? It's like, all right. Let's roll a d10. That's how many she'll make you. And they're excited,
Where can we find a stone giant? I need its toenail.
Yeah. So, managing resources. NPCs can be used as a bit of a pack horse as well. I found these weapons here. You carry them. You're not doing anything. But I had a newish player, give the major magic MacGuffin item to a little NPC child and be like, look, you sold onto that. And they'd spent the game finding it, like weeks and weeks, and then they gave it to this NPC. And then the next morning, it's like, where's little Trevor? Don't know, he went out and haven't seen him since.
Little Trevor turned into a giant bat and fled in the middle of the night.
Because you attuned to it after an hour, and little guy, NPC, attuned to this magical thing, making him give visions of where this money was. And he was like, yeah, I'm off. And then the player had to say to the other players, I gave it to, in game, I gave it to Trevor, the tiefling, and he's gone. But the players themselves were thinking, we've spent months looking for that thing. You've given it to him. The DM's made him run around town now. It was good. Yeah.
It's good to give those little moments, even if it's not a big bad, but a little bit of misdirection and a little bit of like, look, you are in charge here. You're in charge of your players' actions. You're in charge of driving the story. You've given an item to a child. It's like the D20 from Baldur's Gate. I keep calling it D20. It is. It's a spiky D20. And it's just like, no matter what happens, somehow that object appears in your inventory. It's like, I left Shadowheart on the beach. She died in the crash. I ran away. It was like, I wanted to see where the game would go if I left it. But sometimes players aren't just like, it's fine. It'll just appear. It'll just happen. It'll just this. Well, no.
Yeah.
It doesn't always happen that way.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I love it. I love an NPC disappearing off with something. Or it's like in my game, my players came back and they're like, we want to speak to this person. Where is he? 9 o'clock in the morning. He's in bed.
Yes, exactly. Shop, knock on the
NPCs aren't
merchant's
just
door.
there
Shut, mate.
all of the
Yeah,
24 hours. They're not just here for your whims whenever
yeah.
you want to speak to them. So they ended up speaking with sort of his lieutenant, who was very, I will speak like this, and I see no humour in your spoken word. And when one of the players tried to be smart with him, he cast banishment on him. He was like, oh, we're done with you. I don't want to speak to your silly friend. And it's like you're dealing with different people. People inhabit this world.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool.
I ran a game for some first timers that I work with, and they'd never played D&D before. Some of them gone on to like play D&D. I think one of them's playing a game right now, and I'm very, very proud of it.
Yeah.
And I put people in the village just walking around, and they spoke to every single person. And they didn't have anything to contribute. Like, it was nice weather we're having. I'm going fishing. I am, and
Yeah.
it's just,
Yeah.
and it's just like, well, I thought they'd have something. That they're here. If they're not here to serve me, why are they here? You're in a world. We'll walk down the street and just accost every person on the street in case they're going to give you a fiver, do you? It's just like,
Yeah.
and sort of, I think it's something I touched on in our last video. Actually, is that video game style of D&D and your role playing tabletop style of D&D, particularly the influx of people who've come into it through Baldur's Gate, who expect that sort of video game style. Everyone I speak to is going to have something. It's something they did very well. That some people just on the street, you speak to them, nothing happens. But being able to say, look, there is a world, there are people thriving in it, there are people dying in it, there are people that are doing well, that aren't doing well, that are just existing. And it's up to you to chase the leads. You are driving this story. And I think being able to get a mix of NPCs that are like, yes, cool, I'm here to help.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I own the bakery. I'll sell you some cakes if I want, but that's the extent of my knowledge.
Yeah.
I know how to make a souffle, but I don't know where the big bad is.
Yeah, I live in this town, but I don't know the ins and outs of the politics. Yeah, and like in pubs, I know in a lot of the modules, there'll be like 5 NPCs, all the halfling, a giant, and they all have rumors about the clues, basically clues for the players. And they don't always sit and talk to them. And it's like you can't just have the NPCs walk up to them and say, "I tell you guys what, if you go up there, why would they? If you don't talk to them, they won't talk back." But it's difficult, isn't it? It's difficult because it bugs you that I've got something to tell you. How do I tell you?
Yeah.
As a DM.
That's what I say. It's about balancing exposition. It's about balancing where they find information.
Yeah.
So spoken word is great. Overheard word is great. Written word, even something as innocuous as a diary. And there's a diary written in another language. Oh, well, we've got to go and interact with an NPC who can speak it.
Yeah.
So one of my games, they found a a light sword, Dawnblade. That's
right.
Found a Dawnblade. Found a hill. Couldn't activate it because they couldn't read the inscription. The inscription is written in Celestial. And they had no idea. So they're running around Waterdeep trying to find someone who speaks Celestial. It's like, can you read this? And then it was like they've been doing it for 2 sessions, and one of them just went, I can cast comprehend languages.
Oh God, really?
And it was something. It was just silly, but it was just like, okay, cool. He's realised the talent of his own class. But it was one of those moments, and it was just like, oh right, light bulb. I can do this. All right, cool. Well, they're not going to forget that now because you've taken 2 days in game to realise you can do a skill.
Yeah. Another thing is with being the DM and doing the NPCs. Sometimes if an NPC is with the party, you find you're an NPC talking to a new NPC. The people are like, well, shouldn't they talk to the guard? They're from round here. And then you're basically just D&Ding with yourself. And all the players are like, look at him, he's just talking to himself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's one of those ones that sometimes it's not unavoidable. And 2 NPCs have to interact, which is weird, particularly if they've both got different accents.
Yeah.
I try to avoid it as much as possible. But sometimes, particularly if they've taken one along for the ride. So I know we're going to move on to Ron, and I'll go into a lot more detail about that whole story. Because I took out the Abyss and I twisted it into my own creation that I was very, very proud of. But there were moments in there where you've got an NPC who's been with them for months in game, interacting with another NPC who's been with them for months, and you just have to do it. You have to do it because it's an ongoing conversation. I would say for those moments, you have to interact it as a group conversation. Ask other players what their opinions are. Because, it's very much been, want to know what you're thinking. What do you think, player number one? And then you've got the other NPCs. Oh, well, I don't quite agree. Well, player number two, come on, back me up here. And you can sort of throw in those diversifying opinions. Because all it is, if you're having a moment interacting with yourself, it's a bit like, you like the sound of your own voice here. I mean, most DMs I've met do. I do. I know I do. I like being the entertainer. I like being the person in the room. I like being the loudest person in the room. That's who I am. It's just like, I like being a bit of a spectacle, and that may be being a narcissist, it may be the ADHD brain talking, but whatever. I just like being heard. But you've got to give everyone else that chance. And I think it's up to you as a DM creating NPC moments that you build in organic moments for other people to chime in. Particularly if you're doing an NPC on NPC talk. There has to be a moment where a player can be like, hang on a minute, or I agree with this and this is why.
This next bit, we need to qualify out of the abyss into the Underdark kind of an adventure. We are going to potentially spoil a character, perhaps, or give something away in talking about this. So if you're going to
I will possibly spoil this entire adventure because I know where my brain will go.
Yeah, well, and I'm going to go to that one character and look up how he actually is to start with. So, you have been warned. We are talking... Out of the Abyss starts with a shed load, I don't know, 8, 11... A load
12,
of NPCs.
It's just a load of NPCs, potential NPCs.
And they all have... So which one is Ron?
So Ron's the middle one.
Oh, Ron's like the orky dude with the big... I don't know if I might get it on the picture on a photograph I can edit in later. So and I meant to look at what you were all about. So Ron, he's a prisoner and you're a prisoner and you can use him to, give information. Ron is a male orc. I mean, you probably never used any of this. Is ashamed of his cowardly act and knows that Grumsh is punishing him, doesn't want to die. Ron is mean, stupid, and hateful. He hates one of the other people there. He engages in threatening behavior. He's a bully.
Yeah,
he's a big bully.
Ron is a Chad. He's a bit of a bullying Chad. That's kind of it. And he's a big muscle-bound idiot. That is his whole thing. And he doesn't want to die a coward. And he's looking... The way I read it was he was looking for redemption. He's looking for redemption in the eyes of Grumsh, which tied into one of my characters perfectly. So I ran Lost Mines of Phandelver for my friends. Lockdown just hit. We decided we were going to play D&D. I was maybe 2 years into my DM journey. I was like, right, cool, we're gonna play. All mates from uni, all one experience playing the guy who got me into D&D. Really talented DM, really talented publisher. Runs a company called Arcane Quill. If anyone's watching that, go and check it out. But one of my players was a half-orc, and his backstory was that he had disowned Grumsh after his tribe had been destroyed, and he'd been left for dead. And he disowned Grumsh because Grumsh was supposed to, look after his people. And he was like, right, I defy you. I flat out defy you. And they'd had a fight with some orcs and an orcish tribe, and there'd been a beautiful moment where he'd set this orc encampment on fire. And he was screaming out to the heavens, I defy you, Grumsh, I defy you. We hit the point where I was like, right, cool, we can kick into another adventure. We're going to do Out of the Abyss. And I had them tracking a drow party, and they tracked it through, and they got captured. And that's how they ended up in Out of the Abyss. They were captured, they were dragged to cells. And then all of a sudden you've got this other orc who is fearful of Grumsh and wants redemption and wants this bit. And one of my players was just like, right, cool, you and me, we're kin. We will get past this. We'll get past this. And they took him with them.
Yeah.
And there's bits in Out of the Abyss where, there's various characters could die, ones that can make it, ones that can't, and this, that. And they kept finding reasons for Ron to stay with them. So all of a sudden I have to stat block Ron because Ron's getting into combat. So I thought, right, I'm going to make him a full player sheet.
Yeah.
So big muscle-bound idiot, orc, barbarian. Fine. Made him a barbarian. And over time, and it's the interactions that the players are like, well, what do you want to get out of this? What are you looking for? What is Ron's story? And then all of a sudden, Ron was the cook for his tribe.
All
His
right.
food was awful. He would make rock cakes with literal rocks.
Yeah.
And he was awful, but they helped him get better. They found him cookery books, and the players sort of nurtured this character. And this went from level 5 to level 17, 18.
Yeah.
And they helped him, and all of a sudden he multiclassed into Bard. Because I like bards aren't just musicians. Bards can be actors. Bards could be chefs. Bards could be any form of creative. It could be anything. It could be anything creative that's going to bring joy to people. Ron was a cook, and Ron became a member of this new clan, and he fought side by side with my player who was half orc, and they became brothers. And they had this beautiful bond that it was just like they would back each other up through anything. He developed a crush on another character, and he talked like this, and he was a little bit slow, and he was a little bit dull, but he couldn't pronounce. I had a character called Leliana, really brilliant cleric of Lathander, very intelligent, very wise. He couldn't pronounce Leliana, so he called her Lels, but he became ingrained in the group. And all of a sudden, they're like, well, yeah, of course we're taking Ron. Of course he's coming with us. He's part of the group. But it's that case, right? Cool. You understand. Ron is a heavy hitter. He will just go and hit stuff. That's it. You direct him. Ron's going to hit stuff until you tell him otherwise. I tried to make it so Ron wouldn't have the last hit of a combat.
Yeah.
Sometimes that resulted in mitigating a bit of damage, because I don't want to take away players' agency, player agency. I don't want it to be, oh yeah, Ron's killed it again, he's killed it again, because he's hitting everything with, a savage attack. Sometimes, he does attack, but the monster's just clinging on for dear life. Just to give that a little bit. He did kill stuff, minor stuff, henchmen or something like that. Yeah, he dispatched them with ease, he'd lop their heads off, whatever.
Yeah.
But they came to love him, and he went from that bare paragraph that you spooled through to this orc who was struggling for survival and looking for a new pack, and discovered a brother, and he was a love of cooking and a passion for protecting the people in his new clan, this family that he's discovered in a pit that he never thought he'd escape, and being able to deliver that. But all of that came from player interaction.
Yeah.
All of that came from my players wanting to interact with something additional.
Yeah.
And it spawned a host of other NPCs. I had an NPC called Astrid. And Astrid started out as a mild-mannered sort of like tinkerer. She was the person who created tools for the Temple of Lathander. She created little communication gadgets, and you worked at what I created. I say I created. Someone else may have created it as well. A forge of Lathander. It used radiant energy to imbue materials with light and radiance. And she created stuff, and that was her thing. And she was very softly spoken, and she enunciated, and she was a little bit shy, but secretly she was in the fighting pits every week because she loved a good scrap. But no one knew that about her because she was so softly spoken, and she was sort of high. And then the city got taken over by demons. So in Out of the Abyss, it's very much, there's a big clash of demons in the Underdark.
Yeah.
I twisted that slightly. I had Gratz being a major string puller, because Gratz doesn't really appear in Out of the Abyss. Gratz is a footnote in the library, the crystal library of the Stone Giants. He's a footnote. He appears and is like, very interesting. And I was just like, no.
Yeah.
I need a string puller. I need a manipulator. I need someone who's trying to wipe out all the other demons so he can seize power. I mean, Gratz, the Prince of the Abyss, he has 3 layers of the Abyss. He wants more. Potentially, depending on what law you read, of a fallen devil who succumbed to the chaos of the Abyss and became this abyssal prince. And I was like, cool, he's going to be manipulating everything. He was also the patron of one of my characters, who was
nice.
a warlock stroke fighter. And of course, he's pulling the strings on both sides. And he's like, yeah, cool, we need to go and sort this. But the player didn't know who Gratz was.
Yeah.
He just knew him as a power, and he would promise him power and revenge and a chance to become great. He's also pulling all the other strings that leads to the big monster brawl under Out of the Abyss, where they nigh on wipe each other out. When it comes to the end of it, my player renounces Gratz. It's like, no, I'm not following you anymore. Absolutely not. By which point you've got Gratz who's like, right, cool, okay, I'm going to destroy everything you love. You reject me? Cool. I'm going to destroy Neverwinter. I'm going to destroy where your home is.
Yeah.
And so I had the siege of Neverwinter. I had demons sprawling up out of the floor of Neverwinter. And Astrid, this mild-mannered character, disappeared.
Yeah.
And my players were like, well, what's happened to her? Where do we find her? How do we get? We have to go find her because she's just gone cold turkey.
Mm.
And I think they expected to go into the city and find her dead, or
Yeah.
find her fridged, or you know, because she became a love interest to one of the players. And I was just like, I don't want her to become this.
The focus.
I'm dead motivation for a player.
Mm.
I don't want to. I don't want to fridge one of my decent characters.
Yeah.
So I essentially had her become fantasy Batman.
Mm.
She forged her own tools, and she was fighting the demons on her own turf, and she's nipping in and out. And they got to the city attempting to free this woman, and they're like, "Oh, we're going to rescue the damsel in distress." The damsel doesn't need saving; she's doing okay on her own.
Yeah.
And that became a whole thing. She became sort of like this other asset. So when it got to end gameplay, and they've got, right, cool, you have these assets and you're going to have a siege on Asgard. You're going into the Abyss again to fight Grast on his own terms, and you're going to kill him in his home turf because that's how you stop this. I gave them loads of units. One of these units was Astrid and Ront, and they were both separate assets. And you turn these NPCs into these weapons. And it's like, right, cool, your end game now. These are the friends you've made along the way. These are all the NPCs who have ever believed in your cause, who you've met, who you've turned into allies. How do you want to use it? You're going into a big battle. Once a berserker. I want him leading my big barbarian units. Right, cool. He's going to get a buff to that. Right, Astrid's our tech person. I want her behind, helping organize logistics and creating stuff. I want something for the final fight. Right, cool. That's how you're going to use her. One of my characters had a draconic lineage. I was like, right, cool. You've made friends with various dragons. You have the blessing of Bahamut. You have 5 golden dragons to your use. Use them in this fight. And NPCs are great in the moment, but when they link back and they recur, and they're like, right, cool. You've got to the culmination of your point. These are every ally you've made along the way, and they stand alongside you.
Yeah, it's powerful.
You could draw everything back in.
Yeah.
It's like, I realise I don't know how far you've got in Baldur's Gate. I finished it a while ago.
I'm not finished.
You've not finished it.
No.
But there's a moment where you regroup with allies. And it's a powerful moment.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I've forgotten about that.
Yeah.
I've forgotten about, that fighter that we helped when we were level 3. I've forgotten about that roguish child that we encountered and we took in and we nurtured and we let him free in the world. Well, all of a sudden now he's a level 19 rogue, and Christ, he's going to help us.
That's good.
Right, cool. We can use him. You can build assets and turn NPCs into assets. There's always going to be throwaway NPCs, but the ones that your characters latch onto and interact with, they can be so meaningful to story.
Yeah, and new DMs have got to realise that you don't need to come up with this on the fly. You just fill your game, and between the game you add a little bit more, and between exactly, you just pinch. Beg Borrow Steel.
Oh God, yeah.
Fine. Okay.
I mean, my current campaign, my big campaign, it's good. Level 3, and I'm planning on taking it to level 20. I have bitten a lot of stuff. I have taken bits from the fantasy, from sci-fi that I love. And I've ingrained it. There are characters that are, based off various bits. I have a sergeant. He's their commanding officer. My players are all guards within a world, and they've been given free reign to go and do as they will. They're on a rescue mission, and they've been given carte blanche, basically.
Yeah.
But I've stolen his character. He's basically Windsor Davis off It Ain't Half Hot Mum.
Windsor Davis, callback.
And he's like, you do what you want to do, lovely boys, and it's just like, you take little bits that give you inspiration, bits that give you joy. Bring them in. Bring them in. I'd be lying if I didn't say Astrid wasn't, heavily influenced by Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Right.
She's off doing her own thing. Yeah, damn, she chipped a nail, but she's going to punch your teeth down your throat for it.
Excellent advice there, Chris. That's brilliant. So
I do realise I have a big tendency to go off on tangents, so I hope most of that was useful.
You're the perfect guest. Right, so thank you for joining me today, and everyone, thank you for watching. Hope you found something useful, and maybe Chris and I will talk about another subject later on.
Yes.
Thanks for watching.
Part 3.
Stop that record.